Okay. All right. Um, cool. I would like to give it maybe 2 more minutes. We're waiting on Julie and Robin, and both of them are typically late. But this week I've been really thinking about this concept. I listened to a lecture last week by Judith Hansen Laster. She's this
Oh, yeah.
basically one of the co-founders of Yoga Journal, and she's pretty well known in the yoga community. And in any case, I was struck by this idea. Well, I guess we're going to start anyways, and I can catch up. I was struck by this idea that, sleep is not the same thing as rest. So that's like one of the principal points. So like sleep is this distinct thing from rest, and we actually need to spend time resting, and not be under this idea that, I'll sleep when I'm dead, or I'll rest when I'm dead, or whatever people say to that effect. And then the second thing that was coupled with that was really noticing the trees this week, because I don't know where any of you guys were, but every time I had to go to the office, it was so windy near the office. Like you could just see the younger branches moving around like this. You could hear the wind. It was like forceful as you saw things like splattering against the windows. Um, but the trunk of the tree remained stable. The trunk of the tree remained very rooted. And even the older branches, the bigger, stronger branches, they also were not impacted by this high gust of wind. And I started thinking about the trees as being at rest, even amongst all this other stuff that was going on, like the firm trunk of the tree was at rest while the younger branches were floating around. And it left me with something that I want to have us integrate in our practice today. So we're going to focus on resting. Bless you. And we're going to focus on finding a sense of stability while we work through our shoulders and while we work through our hips. So our trunk is going to remain pretty solid, stable. We're going to move around the periphery and see how that impacts our nervous system, and see how that gives us a state of resting. Cool. So, to that end, I don't know what that means, Sandy. To that end, we're going to start, and we're going to start on our hands and our knees. I got you, Barbara.
Okay.
You're welcome. We're going to start on our hands and knees. And the first position that I'd like you to just find yourself in is child's pose. So we're going to just start in our embryo type child's pose, and you'll just see how it feels to you. Do you want to be with your arms forward, or do you want to sweep your arms back and be more in that embryo shape? And the focus first here is just to notice what it feels like. What do you notice happening in the shoulders? What do you notice happening in the low back? What's happening in your neck? How is the breath here? And if there's a different variation with your arms that you think might feel better, notice what happens if you try that. Good morning, Julie. So, Julie, we are starting in a child's pose position. Awesome. And then after you've taken 3 or 4 more breath cycles here, I'd like you to just notice what it feels like if you just focus more on the breath, that internal wind of the body, feeling the breath come in, feeling, sensing the breath go out. At the end of this next exhalation, bring your hands alongside your hips, push down into the floor, and walk your spine up to vertical. And you'll just take a moment to sit on top of your shin bones. So in Vajrasana, eyes soft or gaze closed. And just again, notice what it feels like to pay attention to your shoulders. Notice what it feels like to pay attention to your hips, the neck, and then the breath coming in and out of the body. From here, we'll turn around. We'll lie down on our backs. Once you find yourself on your back, go ahead and bend your knees. And your knees will be about hip distance apart. You can relax the arms wherever it feels appropriate to you. And again, we're just checking in. What does it feel like to notice what's happening in your hips, what's happening in your shoulders, and then again, what's happening in your neck? Our shoulders and our hips specifically, they've got this really cool relationship with one another where often when you do something to one, it impacts the other. Especially, those individuals talking about sleep earlier, you know this quite extensively. All right. So keeping your feet hip distance apart, knees pointing straight up, reach your arms straight up like happy little zombies. Now from here, grab opposite elbow. And we're going to imagine that for some reason your arms are now I can't remember what that's called, but the typewriter sort of thing that goes back and forth. And so you'll inhale and the elbows will go one way, and you'll exhale and they'll go the other. And ideally, we want to move pretty slowly. So maybe it's one inhalation and you take the elbows one way, you come through center as you exhale, and then you inhale and you go to the other side. And you're just noticing what's happening in the backs of the shoulder blades as the arms just go right to left. And you'll do about 3 more of these. And you're focusing on the humerus, the head of the arm bone being super duper heavy. It's the trunk, it's rooted, it sways, but it's never destabilized. Yep. And then after you've been to both sides equally, you're going to vary this. So you might start to draw your arms a little bit closer to your face. And then you'll do that again. And you'll just notice that with a slight change of angle, you might notice something different happening in the shoulder girdle. And just like a typewriter, we want to be pretty, I don't know what the word is, but linear with this. So it's not an arc, it's not a semicircle, it's a straight line that you're doing from right to left. Okay, and then once you're balanced between both sides doing that, you might vary it again and draw the hands a little closer to your head. So maybe now your arms are closer to being over your nose or maybe even your eyeballs. And again, you're just going gently, slowly, right to left, noticing what's happening in the shoulders, in the front, as well as the back, the medial side, so close to the middle of your body, and then the lateral side, the close to the outer edge of the body. We'll do about 2 more of these, making sure you go to both sides and you're just noticing the different range. Okay. And then once you're balanced here, you're going to bring your hands so your elbows are directly over your shoulders once again. And this time you're going to go down. So you'll go a little lower. And again, just going right to left and noticing what that feels like. Head of the arm bones is heavy, rooted into the floor, and you're just slowly following the breath. So there is no rush. We're giving ourselves permission to rest now as we go along. Because I don't know about you, but I think life is a lot more enjoyable when I give myself permission to rest, to slow down, to appreciate what's going on in the present moment versus attempting to just get myself through it as quickly as possible. Awesome. And then once you're done with that, let's go ahead and come back to center, back to stillness. Open the arms out to the right and left, and just notice what you notice in the back of the shoulders. Notice what you notice in the back of the hips. And again, notice what you notice in the back of the neck. All right, so adding on, if there's something immediately to your right and left near your arms, you might want to move that. And then with your elbows shoulder height, bend your elbows so your elbows are like little goalposts. Your palms will face in the direction of your feet. Fingers straight up towards the sky. There we go. Cool. Now, the first thing that you're going to do is make sure your elbows remain in line with your shoulders. You're going to push down drastically into your elbows and feel that engagement into the backs of your shoulder blades. And then as you inhale, you'll start to draw the palms back and alongside your ear as far as you can go without letting the ribs disrupt. And then you'll come back. And I don't know about you, but I was surprised at how little range of motion I actually had if I kept my ribs down and if I pushed my elbows into the floor and I didn't let my chin jut up to the ceiling. You're just noticing, pausing and breathing, paying attention to what's happening in the shoulder girdle, what's happening across the front of the chest, seeing if you can keep your wrist completely in line. So the wrist, there we go, doesn't break. Yep. And we'll do about 3 more of these. Yep, and you're just following your breath. Nice control, guys. And then the next time you start to flatten your hands towards the floor alongside your ears, you'll just pause there and you'll hover. Your hands probably are not touching if you're still pushing down into your elbows. And then you'll notice that you'll draw the shoulder blades onto the back. And then the front ribs can soften. And then notice if you can make your sit bones, the backs of the pelvis, a little bit heavier. And then see if you can breathe. Barbara, see if you can widen your hands a little bit away from your head so we remain in that 90-degree angle. There we go. And the next in-breath, go ahead and come back up with the fingers so they're pointing up. Take a moment to rest. And of course, we know we have to go the other direction, which is going to be entertaining. So just take a moment to rest and notice what you feel in the backs of the shoulders and the backs of the hips. And then when you're ready to try the other one, we'll go ahead and bend the elbows in line with shoulders, fingers point up to the sky. And this time you're going to start to draw your hands down towards the floor. And then you'll come back up. And again, this might be an interesting sensation where you're like, wow, I don't know what's happening in the internal range of motion. But again, we're just pausing and we're breathing. And as long as you're keeping that 90-degree angle in the elbows and the 90-degree angle in the shoulders, good morning, Robin. You'll notice this is probably not as easy as one would have thought. Awesome. The next time your palms come down, you'll just take 2 to 3 breath cycles there. So Robin, we're laying on our back. And then when you're ready, you'll gently bring the hands back up, open the arms out to the side. And again, take a moment to just check in with your shoulders, check in with your hips. Notice what you notice happening in the back of the neck and into the breath. Okay, we're going to move to your hips now. So your shoulders will get a little bit of a rest. Walk your feet a little bit wider than your hips. And you're just going to casually roll over or let your knees drop to one side and then the other. And you've got about 5 sets of these, so 5 to each side. And just take your time, paying attention to the breath. Again, we are that firm, stable trunk, that base of that mature tree that's probably like 100 years old. We don't easily get swayed by everything. And in fact, it's like the winds, the storms, the things that we encounter give us a sense of strength and resilience that, if we'd lived in a completely protected environment, we'd never have the opportunity to develop. And I remember learning, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 months ago about like some scientists developed trees in an environment where there was no wind whatsoever and they didn't live. Like they didn't grow up, they didn't survive. So we're just paying attention to that. Okay. So after you've done a total of 5 sets to each side, you'll come back to stillness and you'll just wait a moment and we'll all catch up. And if you're still doing your 5 sets, you still do that because I wasn't counting. Awesome sauce. All right. So this is our last one for those that are still in movement. Now from here, what you'll do is you'll keep your feet glued to the floor. Yep, Sandy, you were correct. And you'll start to open and widen those knees, and then you'll draw the knees together. And again, you're paying attention to what it feels like in your pelvis. So keep the feet on the floor just for a moment, Julie, and feel what the soles of the feet do. And notice how wide the knees can go, keeping the soles of the feet, big toe mounds touching, and then how far they can come in. So no, Julie, you're good. Keep your feet there, but just keep the soles of the feet glued as you open and close the knees. There we go. And then some of you may choose to start to let the soles of the feet start to peel up off of the floor as you open and close your knees. And you'll just notice what that feels like. It changes the sensation in the pelvis because it changes how the thigh bone is interacting with the pelvis. So you just notice what that feels like for you. Awesome. Last set. And then you'll go ahead and find yourself into a neutral position. So feet hip distance apart. Again, take a moment to check in. How is the back of the hips, the back of the shoulders, the back of the neck, and how is the breath? Draw your right knee into your chest. Interlace your hands at the back of your thigh. And then you'll inhale and extend the foot up towards the sky. And exhale, bend the knee, flex at the hip, draw the knee into the chest. And you've got 5 of these. And you're just paying attention. What does it feel like to stretch? And what does it feel like to bend that knee? So in our trip around the hip, as Christina Sell would call it, we're going into flexion and extension of the hip. And this right now is mostly flexion of the hip and extension of the knee. And so you're just going to see what that feels like. This next time you extend that right leg up, you're going to stay there. Actively kick your thigh into your hands, actively pull your hands into your thigh. And then some of you will point and flex your toe. Some of you will circle that right ankle. So you choose whatever feels good to you, but you're really paying attention to that right thigh kicking into both hands pulling into right thigh. So there's a bit of resistance there. If you've taken circles one way, go ahead and switch the direction of your circle. And if you want to try doing the opposite thing, so if you were circling, maybe you point and flex. If you're pointing and flexing, maybe you circle. Great. All right, you've got 2 more breath cycles here. And then just pause, send the heel up a little bit more towards the sky, draw the toes down towards your face, kick the thigh into the hands, pull the hands into the thigh. And then very gently bend the knee, plant the right foot next to the left, open the arms, notice the hips, notice the shoulders, notice the neck, and notice the breath. Now this time you might feel more of an opening on the front of the right hip versus on the back, but that's an aside. Go ahead and draw the left knee into the chest, interlace the hands at the back of the left thigh, and again, you do the same thing on the other side. So 5 nerve flosses, bending and flexing that knee. Again, you're going into your range of motion and trying to resist the straightening of the leg. So you're really kicking your thigh into your hands. You're really pulling your hands into the thigh so that you're both nerve flossing as well as starting to tone and wake up the muscles of the leg. Okay. And then after you've done 5, you'll keep that left leg straight. And then your choice, you either circle that ankle or you point and flex the foot. But again, you're kicking your left thigh into your hands, you're pulling your hands into your thigh, and you're just noticing what that feels like. If you've taken circles one way, reverse the direction. If you'd like to try circles or pointing and flexing, go ahead and do that as well. Okay. Last 2 breath cycles here. And then you'll just flex through the heel, send the heel up, draw the toes down, kick the thigh into the hands, pull the hands into the thigh. And then as you're ready, gently release, bend the left knee, plant the left foot next to the right. Take a moment to let go of the arms. Notice the hips, notice the shoulders, notice the neck, and notice the breath. Okay, let's move on. Go ahead and draw your right knee to your chest. Let the left knee flop out to the left and take half happy baby with that right foot. So you're going to hold on to the outside edge of your right foot with your right hand. Fantastic. And you're going to notice how awkward this feels, and that's fantastic. So sole of the right foot is pointing up to the sky. You're rolling on the outside edge of the left foot. Now, some of you will choose to stay right here. Some of you will take a little pumping action. So to do this, you'll push up more through your right heel. You'll feel the right heel really reach up to the sky, and then you'll pull down with your right hand. And you'll do about 5 of these. And these are micro movements. This is that big, sturdy, firm tree that is not easily swayed. It does move. It's not rigid. It's not static, but it's not easily disrupted by the little changes that happen in life, by the constant active nature, which is change, which is flow. It's just going with the movement. It's acquiescing when it needs to. It's solidifying when it needs to. Okay, after you've done about 5 of those little pumps, you're going to pause. You're going to send the right heel a little higher up. You're going to pull down with the right hand so you feel that tone. And then from here, keep that right leg as it is. Bring the left sole of the foot back to the floor. Cross the right ankle over the top of the left thigh for Sukhi Randrasana. Keep your arms out of the equation for a moment. Press the right ankle into the left. Lift your left shin parallel-ish to the floor. Now, some of you will stay here and you'll just really drive that left knee close to your left shoulder. You'll press the right ankle away from you. Some of you will stay right here. Some of you will decide you want a little bit more opening on that outer right hip. So you might lightly press your right hand or forearm into your right thigh. So right thigh, and you're just feeling what it feels like as you continue to draw that left knee towards you. You press the right ankle out, and then you can press into the belly of that right thigh. Nice job. Some of you may choose to thread your hands through the hole and grab the back of your right thigh. And again, you're just paying attention. You are that tree. I am that tree. We are that tree. How do we remain aware that all the little storms in life do not prevent us from, I guess, living a full life? That sometimes we do have to relax, sometimes we have to rest, sometimes we have to restore, and that's okay. All right, from here, let's go ahead and gently release. Left foot comes to the floor, arms open out to the side. Push into your left foot, lift your hips a few inches and slide your butt to the right and put your butt back down. There we go. Let the legs fall over to the left. Right sole of the foot comes to the left. Some of you are going to hold on to that right ankle. Some of you are going to push your right thigh away from you. You choose what option works for you. But the choice or the task here is to pay attention to what's happening across the front of your right hip. Notice what's happening in your back. And you just pause and you breathe. Oh, cool. So that was not clear for two of you. All right. We'll try it again. So on your next in-breath, let's go ahead and come back through center. Release the right ankle, both feet parallel and hips underneath your shoulders. And again, notice what's happening in the backs of the hips, backs of the shoulders, back of the neck, and what's happening in the breath. All right, let's try the other side. Let's go ahead and draw the left knee into the chest. Take half happy baby with the left foot. Let the right leg flop out to the right. Okay, so now if you're holding onto the outside edge of that left ankle, some of you will stay right here, happy as a clam. Some of you might take those little baby pumps. So you'll push the heel up, you'll semi straighten the leg. It doesn't actually straighten, but it's that action of pushing up through the heel and then you'll pull down. And you've got about 5 of those. And you're noticing that your pelvis might rock a little bit as you do that, especially as the left knee comes towards the floor, and that's okay. You're paying attention to the breath. You're paying attention to the sensation in the body. And you're really just driving the heel up. So it's less about straightening the leg and more about driving the heel. There we go. And then we'll go ahead and stay here for a couple of breaths, pressing up through the left heel, pulling down with the left hand, noticing what that feels like. From here, draw the right sole of the foot back to the floor, cross the left ankle over the top of the right thigh. Leave your hands out of it for a moment. Draw the right knee towards your chest. Press the left ankle into the top of the right thigh. And again, you might just stay here, really driving the right knee towards the right shoulder. Some of you might use your left elbow or left hand to gently press your left thigh away from you so you feel more stretch in your outer left hip. And you'll just take a couple of breaths here. And then some of you may thread your hands through the triangle hole, grab the back of the right thigh, and just pay attention. What's happening in the breath? What's happening in the body? What's happening in the hips specifically in this moment? Great. And then as you're ready, gently release. Draw the right foot to the floor, arms out into a T. Listen very closely. Push down into your right foot, lift your hips up and slide them to the left, and put your butt back down and allow that figure 4 shape to fall over towards your right. So the right knee is pointing up towards the sky roughly. Yeah. Other right leg, Barbara. Sorry, your left leg, Barbara. There we go. Yep, that leg. Figure 4, and that knee will point up. There we go. So cross the ankle in front. There we go. Whole configuration falls to the right. There we go. And then some of you will hold on to that left ankle. Some of you will push the left thigh away from you so your left knee points up. And you're just paying attention. So generally, maybe the right hand helps push the left thigh away from you, Robin. Or not. There you go. Yep. You just pause and you breathe. And you pause and you breathe. And then when you're ready, you'll inhale and come back through center. You'll uncross the left ankle. You'll plant both feet hip distance apart, and you'll re-square your pelvis. Now, once you're here, I'd like you to just take a few rocks with your pelvis. So you'll arch and flex the spine. So you'll feel a little rolling of the pelvis as though you had a marble in your pelvic rim and you're rolling it forward and back. And once you feel like you've done that enough times to find center, I'd like you to find center. Okay. From here, bring your hands alongside your hips. Inhale, push through your feet, reach your arms up and over your head, coming into a bridge pose with your arms alongside your ears. And then as you exhale, keep your arms there, but slowly roll down the spine, bone by bone by bone, and just feeling that elongation in the vertebra. When your pelvis hits, inhale, lift the hips. And then as you exhale, hands and hips come back to that starting position. We'll do that about 3 more times. So inhale, push through the feet, lift the hips, lift the arms. As you exhale, keep the arms, lower the hips, slowly articulating through the back of the body. When the pelvis hits, you'll inhale, lift the hips once again, and then exhale, hands and hips come back to that starting position. 2 more times on your own, and you just follow your breath. You'll notice that it feels different depending upon if you add a little bit more oomph to your arms or oomph to your legs. Yep. And you're just paying attention to how that is working through the body. Okay, this is your last set. Awesome. This next time your hands come back down alongside your hips, we're going to change the pattern just a little bit. So keep your pelvis as it is. Notice what's happening to your front ribs. See if you can draw them down towards your pelvis and in towards the floor. And then inhale, sweep your arms up and overhead. Yep. And then exhale, come back. We're going to do that 2 more times. These next 2 times, I want you to see what happens if you turn your palms to face towards each other as you do it. What happens in the shoulders, what happens in the ribs. And your hands might touch the floor, they might not. If you're keeping the ribs integrated, that might not be a thing, but you're just noticing what that feels like and you're taking your time. Great. Next time your hands come alongside your hips, keep your hands there. From here, you'll start to push through your feet. You'll lift your hips. You'll walk your shoulders underneath you. Some of you will grab the outer edges of your mat. Some of you will interlace your fingers. All of you will push down into your big toes. And you might find in this position, you might want to widen your feet a little wider apart, right to left. And if you do that, notice what happens in the feet. Does it feel like you can push more evenly through the big toe mounds and the pinky toe mounds? And then notice what happens in the knees. What happens in the hips, what happens then through the spine. And then become aware of whether or not that gives you the capacity to walk the shoulder blades even further underneath you. And then maybe you can push into the back of the skull as you draw the chin towards the sternum towards the chin. And you just breathe. Nice. And when you're ready to come out, you release the hands, you untuck the shoulders, and you slowly lower the spine down, bone by bone by bone. All right. One at a time, let's go ahead and extend your right leg long beneath you for like a Tadasana type shape. And then do the same thing with the left leg, Tadasana type shape. So we'll flex through the feet. We'll extend through the legs. Now this time you'll draw your front ribs in and back and reach your arms up to the sky like happy little zombies. Palms facing in. Draw the head of the arm bones down and then with resistance, reach your fingers up and over your head towards the floor behind you without letting the front ribs open. And you'll just take a breath there, finding your full length. You might reach out more through your heels, more through the arms, and just pause and breathe. And then as you're ready, you'll open to like an X shape and you'll just relax for a bit there. So arms open, legs open, happy little X. Arms open, legs open, happy little X. There we go. From here, draw your right leg towards your left leg. You can cross the right ankle over the top if you'd like. You can keep the legs parallel if you'd like. From here, you're going to reach up through your arms, and then you'll reach your right arm up and over your head. You'll grab your right wrist with your left hand, and we'll take our happy little banana asana. You might inchworm your ribs a little bit more to the right, your hands a little bit more to the left. You might peek underneath your right armpit, and you just breathe all along your right side body. Long, full breaths. Nice work. When you're ready, you'll undo that. So release the right hand, right arm comes back to the right, right leg comes back to the right, and you just pause there. Notice back of hips, back of shoulders, back of neck. And we'll try that on the other side. So make sure that right leg really came back to the right. A little further, Barbara. And then you'll take your left leg towards the right leg. You might cross the ankle on top. You might just have the legs parallel. And then you'll reach up through the arms and draw the arms over towards your right. Grab the left wrist with your right hand, maybe peek or peer towards the left, and you just pause and breathe. And some of you can really inchworm your hands and legs more to the left, ribs to the right, and you just feel this nice long side body stretch. And you just pause and you breathe. Nice. Next in breath, gently release. The left hand comes back to the left leg comes back to the left. Take a moment in that X shape. Some of you might want to point and flex your feet here, rocking through the pelvis. Some of you might be completely fine to just remain still, but you just notice what it feels like in the body. Cool. And then let's go on, add on. Let's start to roll to your right side. And when you find yourself on your right side, you'll roll onto your belly. Once you find yourself on your belly, we'll take a moment to just go ahead and bring a cheek to the mat, bend your right knee, grab your right foot with your right hand, gentle little quad stretch here. And you just pause and you breathe and you notice and feel what that feels like. And because we're lying down, you can really notice whether your pelvis and your knees and your shoulders are all in one line. And so just notice if you want to make any adjustments there. And then when you're ready, you'll gently release the right leg and go ahead and grab the left ankle, bending at the left knee. And again, you just notice what's happening on this side. Fantastic. And then from here, you'll gently release. Let's go ahead and find a cactus of our elbows once again. So today I really want to make sure that we've got a 90-degree angle in our shoulders and in our elbows and our wrists. And we'll start all by looking towards our right. Okay. Now, if we're looking to our right, let's slide our right elbow shoulder thing a little bit more to the right. And make sure you keep that 90-degree angle and then turn your face to the left. Step your left hand underneath your left shoulder. Now pause here. Before you go anywhere, press into your right hand for dear life. Really push it like you're pushing a truck up a hill, and then push down into your left hand. And you might start to roll towards your right, and you might not get very far. And some of you will stay here. Some of you might float your left leg up a little bit, maybe bend the left knee and put the left foot on the floor behind you. Maybe it stays straight. I sometimes like it just being long and straight, and I can find this long, crazy stretch. But, it's up to you. But you're paying attention to what's happening in that right shoulder, right chest. Notice what happens if you lift your head a little bit. Notice what it feels like if your chin comes closer to your chest versus away from your chest. So again, coming back to that conception of being in that fetal position when we're sleeping or not. And you just pause and you breathe. And then when you're ready, you gently release. You come back to your tummy and you just relax. Relax. Again, resting is not the same thing as sleep. We do need both. And then when you're ready to try it on the other side, again, you're going to start to look to the left first. Make sure you've got that 90-degree angle in the elbow and the shoulder. Press down into the left hand and then turn your gaze to the right hand. Step the right hand underneath your right shoulder. And then you'll start to push into your left hand and then push into your right hand and roll your ribs towards the left. And again, perhaps the top leg stays towards the floor. Maybe you lift the top hip, maybe bend the top knee, maybe you don't, but you're just paying attention. Because the back elbow is bent, we're not going to get nearly as far as we would if the arm was straight. And that's okay. We're just trying to find a different part of the chest. And then again, you might lift your head, you might look towards or draw this chin towards the sternum, or maybe lift it up and back, but you're just paying attention. Great. And when you're ready and done with that, you come back to your tummy and you rest. Okay, this next one is going to be weird, so I'll try to cue it as best as I can, and I'll do it as well in case if you need to see. So back on our tummies, our elbows are still at that 90-degree angle, and our feet are hip distance apart. Now, you're going to push your palms down, you're going to push your elbows down and see how high you can lift your head. Yeah, that's fantastic. And just notice what this feels like, the pressure of the elbows down, the hands down. You might need to push your pelvis down a little bit too. And then you'll gently release that. Draw your hands underneath your shoulders where they normally would be for a cobra pose. And then you'll push down into the hands and you'll lift your head again. You'll draw the shoulder blades onto the back. And sometimes it feels really nice to breathe into the belly and see if that lets you lift the chest a little bit higher. Fantastic. And then you're going to lower down. And then this time you're going to bring your hands underneath you as though you're going to go to Sphinx pose, and you'll lift the chest, you'll lift the head, and we'll find ourselves in Sphinx. Cool. So this first one that we're going to be in Sphinx, you might just drop your right ear towards your right shoulder. You might push down into the left hand, engage those legs a little bit, and just notice what's happening in your neck. Sometimes it feels like when I find a good spot, it's like a wind tunnel there. And then you'll inhale and come through center and try the other side. And again, you're just pushing into the elbows, pushing down into those hands, noticing what's happening as you draw your left ear to your left shoulder. And then you'll inhale, come back through center. Go ahead and lie down once again. Cactus the arms once again. We're going to do that whole set one more time. So make sure you've got a 90-degree angle with the elbows and the wrists and the shoulders. Or sorry, the elbows and the shoulders. There we go, Barbara. And then you'll just first push down into your hands, push down into your elbows, lift your head. And just notice what this is doing on your shoulders, what this is doing on your neck. See if you can lift the chest by, it feels like the sternum comes forward and then you have this extension through the crown that feels like the back bend. Yep, and then you lower down. And then you bring your hands in the normal cobra position. You push down into the hands. You draw the elbows towards each other. You lift up through the crown. And again, breathing into the belly really helps. And this time you might push a little higher up in the arms. It's totally up to you, but you're just paying attention. And you lower down. And then our third time is back to that Sphinx pose once again. Elbows underneath the shoulders, arms forward. And again, this time I want you to really push into the elbows and notice how that integrates into the shoulders. And that might give the sternum a little bit more capacity to come forward and the spine to lift up. Fantastic. And now we're done with that. Go ahead and bring your head back to the floor. Bring your hands alongside your hips and turn a cheek to the mat. And you just pause and you breathe and you pause and you breathe. Awesome sauce. Bring the other cheek to the mat. Awesome. All right, so we're gonna move on here. Bring your forehead to the mat. Turn your palms to face the floor. Now with your palms facing the floor, come to the tips of your fingertips like thing. And I want you to push down into the hands, the fingers so much that you feel your shoulder blades come on. It's almost like you want to push the floor away from you. And then you notice that you might want to walk your hands a little wider, right to left. And then you can draw the shoulder blades onto the back and lift the head. And as you push down into the hands, you'll feel this engagement happening in the shoulders. And if you can keep that engagement, you might lift your hands up and away from the floor, or you might just keep your hands on the floor, fingertips pushing down. It's really the engagement that we're getting in the back of the shoulders that we're looking for. And then we'll go ahead and release down. Okay. So Robin, we're doing locust pose. Cool. And now this time we're going to add on. So go ahead and push your fingertips down. Notice the shoulder blades come onto the back body. You might walk your hands a little further apart. And again, keep that engagement in the back of the shoulders. This time you have the option of staying right here or float your arms up. And you'll inhale and sweep your arms out and alongside your ears. Your chest might lower just a little bit. And then exhale, sweep the arms back, lift the head up. You've got 4 of these. And so we're just noticing what's happening in our wingspan, noticing what's happening in our shoulders. I notice that for me, it has to lower, or I have to lower my chest towards the floor to really be able to extend my arms alongside my ears. I mean, you can do it with your arms uh, without lowering your chest. It's just a lot harder. So you're just paying attention and you're breathing. And this will be our last one. And then once your arms are back, you hold for 2 breath cycles. And then you lower all the way down to your belly and you rest. And you rest. You just notice what that feels like. All right, so we're done with your upper back and shoulders for a little bit. Go ahead and bring your hands underneath your head, or underneath your face rather, like heads up, 7 up. And now we're going to try our legs. So hands underneath your forehead, heads up, 7 up. There we go. Inhale, lift your right leg up and back. And then exhale down. And then you'll do the same thing on the left side. You've got a total of 10 of these. And so you're just paying attention. How does the pelvis work when you do this? Do you notice if the pelvis dips to one side, or are you able to keep both of your ASIS, so anterior superior iliac spine, those front 2 bones of your pelvis, are you able to keep them rooted and even as you lift one leg and lower it? There you go, Julie. It probably requires that you not lift the leg as high, but you'll notice that you also have to engage more of your glute muscles on the back to do that and stabilize across the opposite hip to do that. Yeah, nice job, guys and gals. All right. So once you've done a total of 10, that's 5 sets, you'll just go ahead and rest that. Okay. Awesome. Now we're going to add on. So next in breath, let's go ahead and lift both legs up. Okay. Keep your legs straight. You're going to inhale and open your arms out like you're taking a jumping jack leg. So legs as wide as your mat. So hands stay as they are. And then exhale, draw the legs together. And you'll do that 5 times, a little opening of the legs and closing. So Barbara, you can bring your hands back underneath your forehead. We're just doing the legs right now. There we go. And you're just opening and closing the legs. And Julie, you can make yours a little smaller. There we go. And as you're doing this, see if you can lift the inner thighs the whole time. So especially for you, Sandy, see if the inner thighs can roll up a little bit more. Yep. Especially as you come in. There you go, there you go, there you go. Okay. Awesome. And the next time your legs are hip distance apart, you're going to stay there. You're going to reach back through your toes. Your hands are underneath your forehead. Start to push your hands up into your head into your hands, and lift your upper chest. And you'll pause and breathe like Superman and Superwoman, arms and chest and legs up for 3, for 2, for 1, lower down. And you do that again. So this one, you can rest while I chit-chat at you for a little bit. This one's kind of ironic. The more you actually do push your head into your hands and your hands into your head, the higher you can actually lift your chest. And then ironically enough, the more you reach out through your toes and sort of engage the backs of your glutes, you can lift the legs. All right, so whenever you're ready, oh, good morning, Alexia. You'll go ahead and try that one more time on your own. And it's really from a lengthening, there you go, Julie, a point of lengthening. There you go, Barbara. Nice, Sandy, look at you. Oh, that's fantastic. Hi, Alexia. When you're ready, go ahead and lower down. Take a moment to rest. Great. What are the winds in your body? So the other thing that I got from Judith Hansen Laster's lecture was she said that rest is different than sleep, because in rest, it gives our mind the capacity to be known to us. And so that's kind of why we need to have moments of physical stillness so that we can become aware of the mental movement, so that we can actively choose how we wish to respond to that mental movement. All right, when you're ready, let's go ahead and inhale and come to hands and knees. Just out of full disclosure, this is going to be awkward, so we'll see how that goes. You're going to go to static back. So your knees are going to be directly underneath your hips. Your hands are going to be directly underneath your shoulders. You're going to drop your belly to the floor. You're going to drop your head to the floor. You're going to lift your pelvis to the sky. And we're going to pelvis to the sky, head down. There we go. And we're going to stay here. for at least a minute. So elbows stay straight if they can, Barbara and Julie. So just normal tabletop, our sad little non-California cows. There we go. And you just pause here. Head is super heavy. We've done all this stuff for our shoulders. So notice if this feels any different for you. And you're just going to breathe. You're going to notice where the breath wants to go. And some of you will stay right here for the next, I don't know, 5 to 6 breath cycles. Some of you might choose to imagine that for some reason your elbows were like the jar lids and you could turn them forward and back. And you'll notice that that creates a fun sensation in your shoulders as you internally and externally rotate your elbow joint. So the eyes of the elbows will turn forward and the eyes of the elbows will turn back. Yep, there you go, Barbara. And it's a weird sensation. And you're just noticing what's happening in the shoulders as you do that. I feel a lot of snap, crackling, and popping. And it's kind of a fun thing. And then once you're done with that, you'll come to stillness. And then go ahead and make your way back to your first downward facing dog. And once you find yourself back in downward dog, just notice what you noticed immediately in the shape. How do the shoulders feel? How does the front of the hips feel? How's the back of the shoulders, back of the hips, back of the neck feel? How is the breath? Is there a part of you that wants to move, just very micro movements? Is there a part of you that wants to be completely still? Fantastic. When you're ready, let's go ahead and bend our knees to the mat. And go ahead and sit tall on your shins. Okay, so tops of the feet can be on the floor for just a moment. And we're just coming back to the initial position or one of the initial positions we started with. And you'll close your eyes and notice what's happening in the back of the shoulders, back of the hips, back of the neck. Okay. All right. From here, we're going to go ahead and open our arms out to the right and to the left. And you're going to flex actively through the heels of your hands. And again, we're paying attention to what's happening in the chest, what's happening in the wrists. And some of you will just be happy as a clam to just stay here and push out through the heels of your hands and just notice what that feels like. As we're ready, we'll extend the arms out, give yourself a hug, left arm on top, right arm underneath, and maybe you stay here. Maybe you double wrap the arms. If we've double wrapped, or even if we haven't, lift your elbows in line with the tops of your shoulders and see if you can draw, especially if your arms are double wrapped, the palms and the forearms away from you. And then you will start to turn towards your right. And then you'll start to turn your head towards the left. And you'll just pay attention to what this is evoking in the back of your shoulders. And you just pause and you breathe and you do that a few times. Okay, and then when you're ready, you'll come back through center. You'll gently release, arms go out. And then we'll try the other side. So now the right arm on top, left arm underneath. Give yourself a hug. Maybe you stay here and just lift your elbows. Maybe you double wrap the arms, or maybe just bring the backs of the palms to touch. And then wherever you are, if the arms are double wrapped, let's draw them away from you and keep your elbows in line with the tops of your shoulders. And then again, just turning your gaze this time to the left first, and then to the right. You're just noticing, what does that feel like? Can you continue to breathe into the back of the body? All right. When you're done with that, go ahead and release. Cool. At this point, some of you will remain seated on your feet. Some of you may choose to sit on a block, but we're going to take what in yin is called saddle pose. So you're just going to start to lean back. And if you want, there's the option to widen your knees. There is also the option to keep your legs together. You might lower the forearms down. We're just trying to find a little front of a stretch on the fronts of our thighs, fronts of our ankles. So we're awkwardly sitting here longer than you may want to. And you just pause and you breathe. Because our front of our ankles, ironically enough, mostly because of our shoes, don't get stretched out very often. So So just pause and you'll breathe. And those of you that are back on your forearms, notice what it feels like to draw the shoulder blades onto the back. You might want to let your head drip back or maybe not. It's totally up to you, but you just pause and you breathe. And after you've taken 3 to 4 breath cycles here, you'll slowly come up. And then from there, you'll slowly make your way to downward facing dog and you'll pause again and you'll breathe. And you'll notice again what's happening in your downward facing dog. You'll notice what's happening in your shoulders, your hips, your neck, your breath. Great. From here, let's come to hands and knees. And now this time you're going to take your toe squat. And in your toe squat, I invite you to do whatever the heck you feel like doing with your arms. I would encourage you to soften the gaze or close the eyes, though, so that you're more internal. I think it becomes challenging for me, at least, to rest if I can become aware of everything that's around me. But if I can close my awareness down, if I can make it smaller, it's easier to tune in and tap into what feels like rest to me because it's not complete stillness, not always. Sometimes rest is doing the things that nurture us, but maybe don't have an impact outside of just us feeling better. All right. After your next 2 breath cycles here, if you'd like, you'll come forward and pitter patter the tops of the feet to the floor or take a counter stretch. And then when you're done with that, you'll bring your pelvis to the floor and extend your legs in front of you. And again, you take your time. Right. So once we find ourselves in Dandasana, that blanket is there if you feel like you would like to sit on it because your pelvis rounds. Otherwise, we're just going to sit tall and remove the flesh from underneath our sit bones. Okay. We'll start with Ardha Matsyendrasana. So we'll bend our left knee, draw our left foot towards us. Wrap your right arm around your left arm. Left hand comes out to the left. Flex through your right foot, and you'll inhale and lift up through the spine. And then as you exhale, you'll start to rotate towards your left. Another left, there we go. And you just pause and you breathe and you extend out through the right heel. You scoop the belly on the left side. You draw your right shoulder towards your inner left thigh, left knee. You just pause and you breathe. Noticing what that feels like on the back of the body, what that feels like across the front of the body, that compression. And then when you're ready, you'll inhale and you'll come back through center. Now you're going to externally rotate your left leg. Draw the left sole of the foot to the inside edge of the right thigh. Some of you might want to externally rotate that thigh, so really picking up the flesh and moving the flesh back so that you can find a little bit more ease there. And then we're going to start to fold over our long leg, our right leg. Having blocks might be a helpful option so that you can bring the floor closer to you. Or you might just choose to walk your hands or your arms straight and just letting your head fall forward. But the purpose or the emphasis on this one is just noticing what's happening on the back of your right thigh, noticing what's happening on the back of your left back, especially as you let the head drop. And so you just pause and you breathe and you notice what's happening as it's happening in this moment. And very gently, we'll start to come out. Walk your hands back towards your hips. Walk your spine up to vertical. Take a moment in vertical to just collect yourself. And then once you feel ready to move on, close the left leg, extend the left leg forward. And then we'll try all that on the other side. So we'll start by bending that right knee. Take your left arm, wrap it around your right shin, flex through your left foot. Right hand comes out towards the right. And again, you just take a series of breaths here. So you're Extending out through the left leg, you're scooping the belly on the right. You're drawing your left shoulder towards that inner right thigh, extending up through the crown, and just pausing and breathing and pausing and breathing. Nice work. As you're ready to come out of this, you'll gently unwind and come back through center. Externally rotate the right thigh, drawing the right sole of the foot to the inside edge of the left leg. Again, if you need to move any of the flesh out from underneath your sit bones, and then we'll start to fold over that long leg. And this leg can be, or this side rather, can be its own little animal. Maybe you didn't need blocks on the first side, and maybe you do on this side, or maybe it's the reverse, or maybe you feel like you have just a little bit more length happening on your right low back. So that's the bent knee side. Or maybe you feel more stretch happening on the left back of the hamstring. That's the long front leg. But you just pause and you breathe and you notice what you notice. Nice work. And then as you're ready, you start to walk the hands back, start to walk the spine up. Take a moment to settle first. And then you'll close the right leg and extend the right leg long and sit for a moment in Dandasana. Okay, last thing. We'll go ahead and walk both knees in. We'll externally rotate both thighs and bring your hands back behind you and lift your pelvis and sort of, I don't know how to describe that, but it feels like you sort of rock your pelvis forward and then lower it back down. Some of you will grab onto the outside edges of your feet and you'll just take a moment to sit tall. And I would encourage you for this one to really close your eyes or at least soften the gaze and notice what it feels like in your shoulders and your hips and your neck here. And then notice what happens to the breath. Great. All right. Let's gently release. Open the eyes if they're closed. Go ahead and close your knees together like a book and then turn around and face the back of your space. At this time, I would encourage you to wrap your body with whatever. So socks, sweatshirts, anything like that. We are going to spend a bit more time in Shavasana intentionally. And the body temperature tends to drop when we're in Shavasana. The other thing, again, echoing on Judith Hansen Laster, is she invites a little bit of flexion into the body when coming into Shavasana. So if you want to put pillows or blankets underneath your knees, that might be nice, or rolled up blanket underneath your knees, that might be nice. If you want something to support the backs of your ankles or things like that, just so you feel supported, because we're going to try to stay here for about 7 minutes. That doesn't sound like that much, but considering we normally only spend like 4 minutes, it might feel like a lot. Okay. And so when you find yourself in your final resting shape, the first task is to find a sense of comfort and a sense of symmetry between the sides. It's hard to remain still and, more importantly, to remain present if we feel incredibly uncomfortable. So the first thing that you'll do once you've settled into the shape is I want you to just take an audible breath out. And then take a big breath in through the nose. An audible breath out. Last one, big breath in. And big breath out. From here, just allow your breath to fall into its involuntary rhythm. And you'll allow your awareness to rest on the breath wherever you feel it most active. So maybe you feel the breath in your chest. Maybe you feel it in the belly. Maybe you feel it in the nose. Wherever you feel the breath, just notice the breath entering and exiting the body. And I'm going to leave you here with you and with your breath for a bit of time. I will let you know when it's time to come out. Return your awareness to your breath. As you come back to your breath, just take a moment to check in. If there's any part of you longing to linger in this shape, by all means, please stay here. When you are ready, you'll allow movement to gently re-enter the physical form. Again, if you're in stillness, stay in stillness. If you're in movement, you'll make your way to your right side and pause there for about 3 to 4 complete breath cycles. At the end of your 4th exhalation, you'll start to roll your chest a bit more towards the floor. Press into your top hand and start to bring your spine up to vertical. And then when you do find yourself vertical, I encourage you to sit in whatever way feels comfortable for you. I think each of us in our own way is as magnanimous and as beautiful as the giant red oak woods, or even the pine trees, or the aspens, or the, I don't know, maples, or whatever trees are in our neighborhood. And what's very interesting about the big trees is even amongst life's winds, the things that constantly are testing us or challenging us in different ways, there's always the opportunity to rest in some way. That rest allows us to regenerate. It allows us to renew. It allows us to grow, to fortify, to surrender the things that we don't need to maintain. It gives us a sense of flexibility, as it were. And so as you take these last few moments here, I invite you to notice the ways perhaps you can start to invite a little bit more rest into your life off the mat. And notice how or plant the possibility or the seed that maybe doing that might be the strength that you actually need to continue to do whatever beautiful, magnificent things you are destined to do. We'll go ahead and complete our practice with the collective breath, followed by a collective Om. Bring your hands to heart center, Anjali Mudra. Press the palms into each other. Receive the weight of your thumbs into your sternum, and then press the sternum into the thumbs. Notice what happens to the shoulders, the neck, and the hips. And then gently exhale all the breath from your mouth. Take a big breath in through the nose. Audible breath out. Inhale for Om. Join if you'd like. Om. Draw your thumbs to your third eye. May our thoughts be clear. Draw your thumbs to your lips. May our words be kind. And draw your thumbs to your heart center. May our hearts be open to that light, to that breath, to that stillness within each of you. We bow. Namaste.